Well, top of the morning to you again. All back. I've known this leprechaun here for quite a while. I've had him when I was doing guest ministry up at Harmony Grove. I'd have Dennis doing the healings at the service for me, and just wonderful, sweet, caring spirit. Dennis always has something interesting to say. So we're very, very pleased and honored that he's come to share his wisdom and spirit with us today for the message at the First Christian Spiritualist Church. Thank you so much, Dennis, for coming. And he also has such touching songs he always shares. Dennis O'Donnell has been playing hide and seek with spirit as long as he can remember, having explored spirit's varied expression through many traditions. Native spirituality, Pentecostal Christianity, yogic sciences, devotional singing and prayers, 12-step spirituality, youthful exuberance and mature contemplation, and he's found his favorite home in the work and expression of spirit through the religion of spiritualism. And spiritualism is, to me, the grown-up religion. We're responsible for what we think, do, and say. And we're given this whole beautiful world to play in today. The rhyming guys coming in. But Dennis always has such a sweet innocence and caring energy around him. And let's welcome warmly, please, Dennis O'Donnell.
Well, that was sweet. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a joy to be here. And thank you for inviting me to talk and to sing. I love coming. At least it guarantees I get to church at least once a month. And the leprechauns that just walked in the door right on time. Right into it. Spirit moves you. So, what's the crack? What's the crack? That's a slang word they use in Ireland a lot. It means, what's the fun? What's the good time? Tell me the good stuff. It usually involves other people. It can be something as wild as a night out in the town, or just a little bit like, tell me the juicy gossip. And they put adverbs to it, like that was mighty crack, or deadly crack. Anyway, it's a fun word. And so I'm thinking about this talk and what to talk about, and I wanted to talk about something that was great fun and going to be more on the fun side than on the stuffy lecture and analysis side, which I oftentimes tend to do. So I think I got something. I thought about Irish proverbs, and Irish proverbs are kind of nice, like that one, love is like porridge, it's supposed to be made fresh every day. And that's sweet, and
I love that.
that's kind of nice, a little smarmy. I thought about limericks, but the really good limericks, of course, they're too naughty for church. What a deliverance. And the funniest thing, I think, that I've ever kind of heard associated with Irish. I was at a 12-step meeting once, and there was this Irish guy there, and he was new. And he was talking about when he came to the program, they told him that he had to pray to God. And his reaction, pray to God? Pray to God? I can't pray to God. He'll know where I am. And it just struck me as so funny. it's a sentiment I think that a lot of people share, maybe with not that much enthusiasm and reaction, but Christianity has kind of gotten itself right now into a little bit of a low point in popularity. Church attendance and membership at the mainstream churches has really dropped down low and going lower, and nobody wants to be religious anymore. Everybody wants to be spiritual but not religious. And the Catholic dogmas don't seem to support that objective so much. Everybody knows, and I don't need to tell you about it. It's kind of like a damn near a no-win situation. You got one chance, but you're kind of fallen. You came out of the chute with some liabilities already. You got a big ball and chain tied to your foot because you're kind of like a fallen, evil, beastly person, and but you got to act right. It's your only chance to get into heaven. The kingdom of God is going to come when you're dead, and you can aspire to it, but you got to be perfect. But they just told you weren't perfect, and so, and the consolation prize is not so dreamy either. Of course, if you're not good enough, then you just get eternal damnation. And there's like where's the upside to this Christianity story? Well, there is one particular brand of Christianity that's actually growing a little bit right now. It is Celtic Christianity. And I didn't know much about it, but I did a little bit of a quick study and a research, and apparently the Romans, when they first went to England in about the first century, they kind of brought some introductory concepts of Christianity with them. But they didn't travel to Ireland or Wales, or they basically just set a little camp up in England and built a fort and kind of sat there for 300 years. They didn't go traveling. I think they kind of felt like they were just relegated to the ends of the world, and nobody tracked what they were doing there. But the introduction to the Christian concepts started at that point in time, and they kind of merged in with the existing cultural They merged with the existing religion, which was Druidism, which was kind of a pagan religion, but it had some neat things to say. They were very much like spiritualism. They believed things like birds were messengers from God, and that if a bird, of course, was singing, and they sing the heavenly songs of God, and if a bird came down and landed in a tree, like the fork of a branch in the tree, then it would indicate perhaps that you should cut that branch out and make a nice beautiful harp out of it, and then whoever played that particular instrument would be basically essentially empowered with the gift of singing and playing heavenly songs of God. And so, they were aware. They tended to be in the present moment and aware of what was going on. And they also believed in essentially a web of connection of creation. That the physical world and the spiritual world were connected, and that with a lot of practice and education and learning, you could learn how to kind of like work within that web, and that all knowledge was available to you, and that you could have some agency in your experience in life. You could have some ability to ask or chant a spell or what have you to have things maybe happen. So the whole idea was very much more the kingdom of God is now. We as people are invited and entitled and indeed have to participate within the web of creation. Now, Carl Jung, he said something. He said that if religion is based on salvation, then the chief emotion is going to be fear and trembling. If religion is based on wonder, then the chief emotion will be gratitude. And the Druids wandered around with a real sense of wonderment, with a joy that they received from the mystery of creation and the mystery of living life. And I would presume, I'm sure probably a lot of gratitude. They actually did believe that the earth was a blessing to them, and that the earth, and Mother Earth, and femininity was like the source of their fertility. And they actually, I don't know if the Druids had, well, somebody here knows, they must have had some women priests. They did revere femininity in women, and there was a fair voice. But anyway, so this concept of the world not being so bad, and you have a rightful place in it, and God wants you to be involved and aware and paying attention and participate, kind of merged in with some of the Christian concepts. And all those other weird things happened to the traditional holidays from that culture, kind of got usurped, and they turned it into more Christian-based concepts. But some of the, I guess, how to say, the ideas kind of melded together, and it became a much softer, gentler, more friendly and palatable kind of experience. And so right now at this point in time, lots of people are starting to kind of look at it and say, oh yeah, that's the kind of spiritual I can believe in. And they're finding ways to bring their curiosity. It's like they're Christian agnostics. They're not sure if they believe, but they're willing and able to go there. And the Celtic Christianity, they're not asking you to, you got to believe every little bit of this dogma all the way down the line, right away, right now, or you can't be with us. They kind of like, they take you as you come, take what you need, what makes sense to you, leave the rest. Very, very spiritualist sounding kind of awareness. So I say all that only to admonish you all that you have a good opportunity out there in the real world to talk about how wonderful First Christian Spiritualist Church is, and kind of enlighten people to the idea that there's lots of different shades of Christianity, and we tend to look at the end of the Christianity part where we're all connected to a universal field of Christ consciousness that's available. We are told by Jesus, he never said, I am the only incarnation. We're all the incarnation. And just telling people that will blow their minds and get them real interested to see what kind of good stuff's going on at this church here. So, all right, but that's not what I want to come talk about. I really want to talk about leprechauns. I figured what's the most ridiculous, silly thing I could possibly talk about? And leprechauns are pretty outrageously, they're marketing tools for soap and for kids' cereal. And, they're about as believable as the Easter Bunny or the storks that deliver babies. I am a leprechaun agnostic. Okay? I try to keep an open mind. I don't know. Maybe they exist, maybe they don't. I don't know. But it's pretty silly stuff. No doubt about it. So I got to studying and reading a little bit and looking about the leprechauns. And the leprechauns are part and parcel of this whole big topic of the little people, or the wee people, or the wee folk. There's whole chapters written about all these different characters. There's leprechauns, and then there's banshees that do that wailing stuff. There's
Fairies.
yeah, fairies, elves, all those. There's these changelings. I don't know about how that all works exactly, but there's changelings. There's they're little entities that actually live usually in the same spot. They live on Earth. They're not human, and they may not necessarily even be entities that have bodies, but they live here and they're anchored on the Earth. And the rumor has it that they can be pretty mischievous and cantankerous at times. And I suppose they can be. So, you see, in Ireland, there's people that actually honestly believe them. And like farmers, when they're out plowing their fields, if there's a mound, a lot of times they'll live around mounds or mountains, different places. But a farmer will actually not bother plowing that section of his field because he believes that there's a house there that little fairies live in. God bless them. Yeah. But I don't know, maybe it's yeah. So yeah, these guys live in places oftentimes that have had spiritual or sacred traditions or rituals performed there, or monuments, or mountains, and they really like what they call liminal sites. Well, let me read that. They're places betwixt and between. They are places where there's like a bridge connecting over a stream, where there's a connection. It says thin places where two levels of reality intersect and become porous. So it's places where I think of it as the physical world and the spiritual world kind of intersecting, and where the veil gets a little bit lighter and easier for entities to communicate back and forth and to relate to each other. And so I guess that's where that leprechaun living under the bridge idea came from or something. I'm not sure, but this idea of these liminal sites and these thin places, the places where the veil is thinner. And so I was thinking, in my little introduction, I talked about I've been chasing spirit for a long time. And really what I meant by that is I've been kind of going around looking and trying to find the thin places where spirit's a little bit more accessible, tangible, real, where I can get into that present moment and experience the mystery and be reminded of, oh yeah, it's not just me and my little life going to work. I'm connected to a bigger, broader experience where the wonder is. It's nice to live in wonder. Really, cheap thrill. I would highly recommend it. Other places like they live, when we talk about there's vortexes, in Sedona and different places that, I would, those kind of places are places where, the elf and the fairy folk and the leprechauns likely to live. Okay, I want to finish up with a couple of things. So I don't know if these guys exist or not, but I found a little article talking about Chief Plentycoops, a chief of the Crow Nation, a visionary leader. And he received a visit during his youth from the chief of the Little People. So in Native American indigenous cultures, apparently there's a whole list here of 14 different tribes, and they each have a word to describe little people. And I could go down, but the Aztecs are there, the Inuit, the Cree, Crow, Comanche, Lakota, Choctaw, a bunch of others. So listen to this vision that this man had as a result of a visit with the chief of the Little People. He says, "The chief of the Little People said to me, 'You have a will, learn to use it. Make it work for you. Sharpen your senses as you sharpen your knife. You already possess everything necessary to become great. Use your powers, make them work for you, and you will become a chief.'" And he said, "I became very happy, lying there looking up into the sky. My heart began to sing like a bird, and I went back to the village, needing no man to tell me the meaning of my dream. I took a sweat bath and rested in my father's lodge. I knew myself now." So that was a pretty generous little person, little elf that came and assisted and helped instruct and teach. And so if you do believe and you call on these little guys, perhaps they help. I have a friend, Patty Walsh. She's a spiritualist minister, lives in Elkhorn. She's real Irish, and she has nurtured relationships with them and talks to them, and when she's puttering in her garden, and she herself is kind of like a little elf person, and she's always smiling. She's kind of one of these Irish people, but she is very believable, and she's had leprechauns come into her house and greet her and kind of appear and smile, and yeah. And I don't know, I never had that, but I believe her. What else do I know personally? I do know myself, there are entities called thunder beings that live in the Black Hills of South Dakota. When I was out there doing a vision quest, these thunder being entities came, and the most powerful teaching lessons I think I've had in life. It really impressed me. And then I'll tell you another thing that I wonder about whether I should mention, because somebody might see me on Facebook or on the internet. But I once heard some women talking about the spacemen coming to visit. And I didn't have any room for this. Not only was I agnostic, I was just a flat-out spaceman atheist. Couldn't even hardly stand to hear that ridiculous concept. And I had just began studying spiritualism, and I went a week or so later to a spiritual circle, and I'd be danged if the spacemen didn't show up. And they were not very gracious. This guy was not really very warm and fuzzy and nice. He says to me, "So you think we don't exist, huh?" He says, "We're actually around all the time and looking for opportunities to help you earthlings, but quite honestly, we find you so objectionable, we can hardly put up with you." Well, I don't discount much of anything anymore. If some people will say there's leprechauns, I am going to have to agree with them. I'm really running very close to the end. So I just want to say, for a really savage crap time, call on your angel friends, call on leprechauns. Realize that the attunement with them is going to be different than kind of like talking to your dead, human grandmother. You kind of got a human connection. These are not humans, so it's more like going to be kind of like trying to interact and work with like training a horse. It's like a whole nother creature from a different perspective, but you spend time together and you get to know each other and the relationship forms. So I'm told. Mm-hmm. All right. So, as my name is O'Donnell, I promise you there's no blarney in this talk whatsoever. But I should read one final quote for you. Sigmund Freud. He says the Irish are the only one race for whom psychoanalysis is of no use whatsoever. Thank you.